Hints. What number?
Number 5.
I need hands. Where are the hands? Thank you, Brown. You're tall and you're raising your hand. I can see you. Go.
5.
Number 5. Okay, so the idea here is I'm giving you hints because your homework tonight is going to be to write out corrections to everything you did not completely get correct. Number 5, you have the path of a ball. Or is it a rocket? What is it? Ball?
Are we supposed to be able to see?
It should come up in a second. The path of a ball. What type of function is this? Quadratic. Does it face up or down? Raise it up or down? Faces down. What's the beginning time? What's a logical beginning time? 0. Sometimes you go back in time. Sometimes it depends on the problem. But in general, reality, we're talking about time is 0 is the beginning, unless the problem states otherwise. Sometimes you'll start at time equals 5. What's the y-intercept of this function? Why? Well, when t is 0, what does the function equal? 5. Yeah, so this goes up, goes down, right? So this question asks you to find 2 points. What's the first thing it asks you to find? The max what? Where's that going to be? At the vertex. Okay, now the second thing it asks you for is the what? Yeah, when it hits the ground. What's the time, right? Where's that going to be? What is this axis called? The x-axis. So what are we looking for? The
intersection.
what intersect? The x-intercept. They're all generally called the zeros. When someone says the zeros of a function, that's where it crosses the x-axis. So when it hits the ground is right there. How do you go about finding the x-intercept of a function? How do you like to find the x-intercept? Let's use a hand here. What's the nice way you generally like to use? Yeah, you hope. Ah, factorable? Now here's the thing. Is everything factorable? Actually, everything is factorable. Ah, there's the word. Not nicely. Is this factorable nicely? No, it kind of wants to toy with you. How many people tried to factor this? You kind of maybe, it doesn't work, right? You can factor everything. You can't. So if you can't try a few, it doesn't work, what can you always use? It's not factorable nicely is what we're looking for. So use the quadratic formula. You don't have to spend an hour and a half simplifying your answer. You're going to end up with like something plus or minus the square root of 6,720. You don't have to simplify that. Leave it as radical form. It's not 5 seconds. At 5 seconds, has it hit the ground yet? No. At 5 seconds, how high is it? Anybody know? At 5 seconds is right about here. It's like, I think it's exactly 5 feet. So at 5 seconds, has it hit the ground yet? No. So when it hits the ground, is it going to be before or after 5 seconds? After. After 5 seconds. Yes?
But how come I can't get 5 seconds out of factor?
Because it shouldn't factor. This is not nicely factorable.
Oh, really?
This is not nicely factorable. It looks like it is. It is not. Fooled you. Okay, those are the only hints you're going to get. Oh, actually, no. One last hint here. We need to find the vertex. If it's written in that form. What form is this? What's that called? Anybody remember what form that is? It's a quadratic, but what kind of quadratic? Look that up. What form is that called? It's called what form? But what's the easy way, or what's the... You might remember this to find the vertex. There's something really important to find the vertex. What? Yeah. If the vertex is hk, h is equal to negative b over 2a. Right? Cool, huh? Nice. That's all I'm going to give you for that one. But that should give you enough to really conquer this. Also, could you do this for me? Use full sentence answers. That would be huge. It would take you about 2 more seconds, and I guarantee you it would help your grade. I get answers. The answer's like written here. I can't see that. Okay. Let's use a hand. What's a vote for it? We'll do one more. Oh, we got a hand right up back there. Yeah. 7? Should we talk about 7? This is more of a test to see if you guys had been asked about domain before. How many people have seen the word domain before? I would imagine most of you. To help you remember if you're not so clear, what are the 2 basic operations you're generally not supposed to do? in math? Raise your hand. What are two things that you've learned so far? What are two illegal operations so far that you've learned? Oh, hands. Yeah.
The root is the number in the root.
Radicand. Yep.
It's not negative.
You want it to be not negative. So what? It makes you sad when what?
It's
Negative. Makes you sad when it's negative, right?
and
what else?
And the denominator is non-zero.
Over 0. It doesn't have to be a constant, does it? It could be anything, right? Something not equal to 0 up here. You don't like it when it's 0. You can't. You hate dividing by 0. Calculator freaks out. You don't like it. Those are the two things you need to watch out for. The domain. Anybody have a good definition for domain? What's one way you say it? You've all seen it before. You all raised your hand pretty much. What is the domain of a function?
All numbers that can go into a function.
The set, that's great. The set of all input values. That was great, Bjorn. I like that. Everything you can put into a function. So that you start with everything, and what do you take away? The problematic values, right? So let's do the first one. That one's pretty straightforward. It's f of x is equal to 9 over x minus 4. I'm going to give you set notation. We're going to talk about this a lot this semester, so don't worry if it doesn't quite make total sense. You can always write it out as a sentence. That's fine. The domain of this function is all real numbers except. The domain of this function is all real numbers except. That's a very common way to say the domain. For this one, it's all the numbers x such that x doesn't equal what? 4. That bar means such that, and the brackets around it means the set of all real numbers. That's what you're going to use. So that's shorthand. It's everything except x equaling 4, right? Using that information, you should be able to get pretty far on the next two. I'm not going to do them out, but that should help you. Sound pretty good? Does anybody else have one last burning question that you want to get a hint on? A burning question. Any burning questions?
Yeah, 9.
Number 9. I'm not going to help you with it, other than to ask you, how many people have seen these words put together like this? Piecewise functions. Yeah, a couple of you have seen that. Do you understand the parts? If I just covered up everything besides little pieces of that, could you graph negative x minus 4? Yeah, sure. I'd hope so. Negative x squared plus 9, could you graph that? Even without a calculator, you could graph that? Yeah, you could. You know you can. What about 2x plus 6? I think so. It's lines. Lines and quadratics. You've had some practice with that. Does anybody want to know, anybody want to tell me what these numbers are, though, next to it? Ah, the domain of the function. So for each of these, you graph this function when x is less than or equal to negative 3. You graph this function when x is between negative 3 and positive 3. And you graph this function when x is greater than or equal to negative 3. Should they ever overlap? Is this a function right here if I graph that?
Oh, no.
Why isn't that a function?
Because you can't have more than one answer.
You can't have more than one. What's another way to say answer? Begins with O. You can't have more than one output. Here's an input, right? X equals 2. How many outputs are at x equals 2? 2 of them. It's not a function. The something line test. Remember?
The pencil line.
What? What'd you say? Say it louder.
Vertical line test.
Ah, how many people have heard of the vertical line test? Is this coming screaming back into your head, kind of? Is this coming screaming back into your head? Kinda, maybe, sorta? Kinda? Okay. I think we'll pause there. That's a good place to pause.